What's going on, everybody, and welcome back to X-Men's Expanding Universes, where today we enter the Saiyans saga of What If GINE Became a Widow. If you guys haven't seen the previous episodes of GINE's story, go check those out, as there is a lot to cover here. If you're already caught up, then let's continue the story. On planet Earth, two space pods would crash down in a nearby area, and two figures would step out. Those two being GINE and Tora. For the past few years, GINE and Tora have been on the run from Frieza's forces. The two would have been deemed priority threats after killing Zarbon, and Frieza would have had the Saiyans chase them down. During this time, GINE would have had to planet hop in order to stay away from Frieza, and at the same time, head to Earth. After what would feel like forever, they would finally find Earth. Once exiting the pods, GINE would ask Tora if they were followed, with Tora stating that they're in the clear from the Saiyans. GINE would then sigh and smile, as she would be relieved to finally be able to see her boys after so long. GINE and Tora would then pull out an old-fashioned scouter that couldn't be traced by Frieza and begin to scan for power levels. Tora would then say that he has locked on a high power level, with the two then heading off. At a small mountain range, Tien would be training with Chaozu in a field where Launch would be watching on. Chaozu would ask Tien why he's pushing himself so hard, with Tien saying that after meeting Raditz, he felt so humiliated when Raditz beat him easily, so he would never allow Raditz or Kakarot to be on that scale of power, unless he was ahead. Blonde Launch would say not to let that pineapple-headed guy get to him, with Tien grunting. Tien would begin to practice again until he would stop, as he would sense a very high power. He would then turn around, thinking it's Raditz in frustration, until he would see two figures land down. Tora would ask if her sons could have gotten a haircut, with GINE ignoring the attempt at a joke. GINE would then step up to Tien, and Tien would ask what her business is, with GINE saying that she is looking for her sons. Tien would be confused, until he would take a closer look. He then asked if she could somehow be related to Raditz and Kakarot. GINE's heart would swell with joy after hearing their names, but then GINE would be surprised. How could these humans know her sons? And why haven't her sons cleared the planet? Tien would ask what she means by that, with Tora saying it's a good thing they didn't, or else they would have gone onto Frieza's radar. Tien would be very confused by this, but GINE would lead on asking where they are now. Tien would then ask who she is, with the answer shocking Tien. At Kami House, Kakarot and Raditz would be having a reunion with their friends. The two brothers haven't seen each other since the World Tournament, with the two having their own kids, Gohan and Trunks. Everyone would be enjoying a nice barbecue until Raditz would perk up. Kakarot would ask what's wrong, with Raditz saying he senses something familiar. Kakarot would say he senses it too. It's like Tien is with some strangers. They would then head outside, with Raditz expecting Tien to want to spar, but would then be stunned. Raditz would then see his mother, alive, after so many years, and would call out to her. GINE's face would be a reflection of her son's. She would be full of emotions. GINE would see her two boys, all grown up, and she'd rush over to the two, grabbing them to win a hug. Raditz would ask, "Mother?" GINE would then look towards her boys and begin to cry in their arms, with Raditz hugging his mother tighter, with Kakarot being confused. It would be a very heartfelt reunion, except for Kakarot, who would be just wondering why this lady is hugging him. GINE would look to Kakarot, asking why he looks so confused. Raditz would then explain that when he arrived on Earth, Kakarot had suffered a concussion that would give him amnesia. Raditz would tell Kakarot that GINE is their mother, with Kakarot being very excited to finally meet his mother, with GINE chuckling, as she would say it's very nice to meet him too. Raditz would also introduce his new family to GINE, and also Grandpa Gohan, explaining that this man was their adoptive grandpa. GINE would be surprised. Why would an Earthling help a Saiyan? Raditz would say that Grandpa Gohan is a good man, and that he helped them grow up on Earth and get stronger. GINE would thank Grandpa Gohan for taking care of her boys, but Grandpa Gohan would stop her, as he would explain that if it wasn't for Raditz, he possibly wouldn't have the strength to raise Kakarot. GINE would even meet her grandchildren in Trunks and Gohan, and would even see that they both have tails. Trunks and Gohan would be nervous, but Raditz would help them warm up to their grandmother. GINE would be very happy to see their sons live a peaceful life on the planet, but Tora would remind her of the plan. After the long reunion, GINE and Tora would take the boys aside, telling them that they need their help. The two would be confused until the name of Frieza would be announced. Raditz believed he would never hear that name again, so he would ask what they need to do. Tora would say that they have been on the run from Frieza's lackeys, but mainly the other Saiyans, Nappa, Vegeta, and Fasha. Raditz would be surprised to hear about other Saiyans surviving, and also about Vegeta. Kakarot would be excited to hear about other strong Saiyans, but Raditz would warn Kakarot, saying that these Saiyans are ruthless and will kill if they want. Kakarot would then say that they need to prepare for these Saiyans, and GINE would say that she agrees, but before they begin preparations, how about a spar? Raditz would let Kakarot fight first, with GINE being surprised, but Raditz would tell her not to underestimate Kakarot. They would head seaside, with Kakarot and GINE then engaging into a battle, where Kakarot would easily be able to trip her up, as GINE's attack would be a little bit more sluggish and unrefined. GINE and Trunks would be very excited during this, seeing Kakarot and their grandmother fight. Kakarot would easily be able to defeat her, with GINE being very impressed with Kakarot's skill and power. GINE would ask how he learned to fight like that, with Kakarot explaining that he had many masters who taught him a lot of things. Raditz would then fly over to the two with a smirk, saying Kakarot has proved himself over time, and would say that Kakarot is even stronger than himself now. GINE would smile, but then her face would drop, as she would see a pale reflection of Bardock on Kakarot's face. Kakarot would ask if she's okay, but she would shake it off. Tora would soon enough arrive in a panic, as he would tell GINE that they have been found already, and the Saiyans are on their way to Earth. GINE would ask how long they have, with Tora saying 12 months. GINE would then say that Kakarot and Raditz are much stronger than expected, but it's not enough to take on the 3 Saiyans. Kakarot would then say that maybe they should train with his old master Kami, but Kami would have been listening, and he would talk with them through telepathy. Kami would apologize, saying that he wouldn't be able to teach much to his student, or the other Saiyans anymore, because they are much stronger than himself, but maybe he can get them a better teacher, the master of comedy himself, King Kai. Kakarot would be excited to hear this, with Tora deciding to stay on Earth to prepare the humans for the other Saiyans. Kami would have to pull some strings with King Yama, and would be promised to allow them to go, but only if they could pass Snake Way. Kami would thank Yama, and would take 3 Saiyans to the other world. On Earth, Kami would plan to train the humans just as usual alongside Tora. Master Roshi and Grandpa Gohan would also be training the kids during this time, but they wouldn't be training them to fight in the battle, but just learn to fight. On the surface, Piccolo would hear the group talk about the Saiyans and would begin to train, but his rivalry with Kakarot and Raditz would prevent him from joining the group in training. Kakarot, Raditz, and GINE would be able to push their Kaioken to ×4, with the family training hard together. During this time of training, GINE would be very independent, with this kind of confusing Kakarot. He wishes his mother opened up more, but GINE would feel a sense of trauma around Kakarot, as she was always thinking about Bardock. Training would continue until the day the Saiyans would arrive. Thankfully, all the Z fighters would be there, because GINE wouldn't forget. Raditz would be surprised to see Piccolo there, with Piccolo commenting that Earth is his to conquer, and he won't allow any more Saiyans to get in his way. Kakarot and Raditz would then eye up Vegeta and Nappa, and Fasha, with Fasha's blood boiling at the sight of GINE. Fasha's face would contort with rage, with Nappa chuckling, saying Fasha looks a little angry. GINE would tell the other Saiyans to go back to Frieza, or die on this planet. Vegeta would chuckle, saying he's surprised the cowards finally decided to fight back after many years of playing cat and mouse, but she's mistaken. Vegeta would then look over to see Raditz, saying he's surprised to find him at a backwater planet like this. He should have just stayed with them. Raditz would say if he did, he'd only be their lackeys, and he's never going back to that life. Vegeta would laugh, saying, once a weakling, always a weakling, and would tell Nappa to plant Cybermen to take care of the humans. The Cybermen would be destroyed easily by the group, with the Saiyans being surprised, but not deterred. Nappa would then crack his knuckles, and would get ready to take on GINE but Fasha would stop him, saying that Gine and Tora are hers to deal with. The group would then split up, as Piccolo and the humans would take on Nappa. Fasha would face off against Tora and Gine, while Kakarot and Raditz would face Vegeta. The humans would be stronger than they were in canon, but they wouldn't be strong enough, as Nappa would begin to increase his power, and he would begin to pulverize the group. Piccolo would tell the humans to hold off Nappa, as he would need time to charge up his attack. Krillin would ask why they should listen to him, until Nappa would kill Chaozu. They would reluctantly listen, as Tien would be able to hold off Nappa. Krillin would distract Nappa with Destructo Disc, as Tien would use his forearm technique to hold back Nappa. They would trip Nappa up so much to the point that Tien would signal Piccolo, and Piccolo would unleash his attack, the Special Beam Cannon. Nappa would fire a mouth cannon towards the blast, with the two blasts smashing against each other. Piccolo would begin to be pushed back, thinking that this is the end, until Tien and Krillin would join him by firing a Kamehameha and a Dodon Ray. Nappa would be overwhelmed and would soon enough be overtaken, with the blast blowing his head off. With Kakarot and Raditz, they would play rock paper scissors to see who would fight first, and Kakarot would win. Kakarot would then tell Vegeta that he's excited to face him, with Vegeta saying he should be. He has the greatest privilege to fight the Prince of all Saiyans, and die by his hand as well. Kakarot and Vegeta would face off with each other, with their battle being more one-sided this time around, inside in favor of Kakarot. Vegeta would soon enough power up into his full power, with him beginning to pressure Kakarot, until Kakarot would unleash his Kaioken. Vegeta would begin to be beaten, as Kakarot would overpower him, which would outrage Vegeta to fire his Gallic Gun. Once Raditz would see Kakarot struggling, he would join in beside his brother and fire his own Kaioken Double Sunday. The blast would overtake Vegeta, with Vegeta luckily being able to live, as Kakarot and Raditz wouldn't go full-powered Kaioken, but enough to defeat Vegeta. Back with the fight with Fasha and Gine, the two would be in a fierce battle, where Fasha would fight like a savage beast. Fasha would then look over to see Vegeta knocked out cold and Nappa dead. She would then look back up, with Gine giving her a cold look, a look almost transparent to Bardock's. Fasha would then have a flash of rage, the rage of being Frieza's puppet after so long, the rage of being a slave, the rage of Bardock torturing her, and the rage of Gine, the one responsible for all her suffering. She would then remember the times when she held on to hope to save her people, and how she was beaten every time she tried to fight and defend herself. It was all for nothing. And now seeing that her two comrades are done for, she explodes in rage, awakening a power once thought useless. She reawakens her wrathful form. Tora would then sweat, as he would remember this form and see that it has become much stronger and much more violent. All the fighters would then look towards Fasha, as her power would surge through the sky. The three Saiyans would have teamed up on Fasha, but Fasha would be strong and ferocious. They would be stronger than Fasha, but Fasha was too savage and extremely unpredictable. Kakarot and Raditz would begin to get weathered down by the Kaioken, with Kakarot then saying that they need to create a spirit bomb to stop her. Raditz would then tell his brother that the group will help stall time, as they would attempt to handle Fasha. Kakarot would then power down out of Kaioken and begin to plead to all the living things on Earth for their energy, and soon enough would be able to make a spirit bomb. Kakarot would have a tough time trying to throw the bomb at Fasha, as Fasha's movements were too erratic and unpredictable, and it would almost seem like she lost control, or if anything, she had no control at all. All the fighters would be tired and beaten, but Piccolo would step up and stretch his arms out and grab onto Fasha. He would then shout for Kakarot to throw the spirit bomb, with Kakarot hesitating, but eventually throwing it, with Piccolo being caught in the large blast. Piccolo and Fasha would get critically damaged, with Piccolo resting on the ground as no one could find Fasha. They would then see a battle-damaged Vegeta carrying Fasha into a pod and flying off, with Vegeta vowing to return, and they will all die next time. They would then fly off into space, with everyone then looking over to Piccolo. Piccolo would then tell Kakarot that now he can live with his family in peace and that he won't be a nuisance for them anymore. Kakarot would tell Piccolo that he was never a nuisance and that he was nothing like his father. Piccolo would look surprised and chuckle, saying, "I guess you're right," and would pass on, going into the other world. Kakarot would then look down in sorrow, but Raditz would put his hand on his brother's shoulder, saying there is a way to bring Piccolo back. Kakarot would look confused, saying that Kami is gone, since Piccolo is gone, but GINE would say that Piccolo is a Namekian, and if they go to his homeworld, then maybe there are Dragon Balls there too. Kakarot would then look to GINE, who would nod. And this is where we'll leave the story for right now. Thank you guys so much for watching the video, and if you guys had enjoyed, make sure you guys like, share, and subscribe. Now, just hear me out. The next part might be the finale, because after that, we go into different territory, and I'm not really sure how to pursue it, but if you guys enjoy this, and when I post the full story, there's a lot of traction there, then we'll continue the story post-Namek arc. But until the Namek arc, what do you guys expect for that story? Leave a comment below, and let me know what you think of the story, and until next time, later!